What if one small moment, something as ordinary as asking for a phone charger, ended up becoming one of the most haunting pieces in a story that still doesn't fully make sense? Because what happened in Zanzibar involving Ashlee Jenae and Joe McCann isn't just tragic, it's layered, confusing, and filled with details that seem to raise more questions the deeper you go. And right now, new information is surfacing from local investigators and people on the ground, adding even more intensity to a situation that already feels incredibly complex. So here's where things stand. Updates have been coming in rapidly, many of them directly from Zanzibar, and while not all of them are widely accessible online, they're shaping how people understand this case in real time. What's becoming clear is that this wasn't a situation that suddenly turned tragic out of nowhere. According to multiple accounts, there were signs of tension early on, almost immediately after Ashlee and Joe arrived. And that detail alone changes how you view everything that follows, because it suggests that whatever happened later may have been building long before that final night. Reports indicate that Ashlee Jenae and Joe McCann were already clashing from the very beginning of their trip. This wasn't a slow buildup of minor disagreements. It was described as repeated, intense arguments that started almost as soon as they arrived in Zanzibar. People nearby didn't just notice tension, they noticed something serious enough to stand out. And when you think about a couple traveling together, especially after an engagement, you'd expect excitement or at least a sense of calm. Instead, what witnesses describe is the opposite, an atmosphere that felt strained, uncomfortable, and increasingly volatile. What made things even more unusual was Joe's behavior. Multiple accounts suggest he didn't act like someone unfamiliar with the area. Instead, he reportedly moved with confidence, like someone who already knew Zanzibar well. That detail may seem small at first, but it quickly becomes significant when you consider how the situation unfolded. Because if someone knows the environment, the layout, and possibly even people in the area, it changes how you interpret their actions. As the trip continued, more claims started surfacing about Joe's behavior. Locals have said that he would often leave Ashlee alone at the villa for extended periods of time, and during those absences, there are reports suggesting he was spending time with other women. Whether fully confirmed or not, these claims are important because they align with what witnesses described: frequent arguments and visible emotional distress. One person even shared that he would disappear for hours and then return as if nothing had happened. That kind of pattern can create intense emotional strain, especially in an already unstable situation. And according to those who observed Ashlee during this time, she was often visibly upset. So now you have a combination of factors: repeated arguments, long unexplained absences, and a growing sense of tension that wasn't staying hidden behind closed doors. Eventually, things escalated to a point where it couldn't be ignored anymore. Reports say that the arguments became so loud and intense that someone staying in a nearby villa felt the need to step in and alert hotel staff. Just imagine that for a moment, things getting so heated that someone outside the situation felt compelled to intervene. That's not a normal disagreement, that's something that clearly felt out of control. In response, hotel staff made a decisive move. They separated Ashlee and Joe in an attempt to defuse the situation. Ashlee remained in Villa 25, while Joe was relocated to Villa 65, which was about an 8 to 10 minute walk away. On the surface, that seems like a logical step: create distance, allow emotions to settle, and prevent further conflict. But as we now know, that separation didn't bring resolution. If anything, it marked the beginning of a critical sequence of events. Later that evening, around 7:30 p.m., a hotel attendant was making his routine rounds. When he stopped by Ashlee's villa, she spoke to him directly and asked for a phone charger. It's such a simple, everyday request that it almost feels insignificant. But in cases like this, even the smallest interactions become important pieces of a much larger puzzle. The attendant gave her the charger, and before he left, Ashlee asked him to come back in about 10 minutes so she could return it. That detail is now part of the official timeline being closely examined, because timing in this case is everything.
But here's where things take a turn. The attendant didn't return in 10 minutes. Instead, it was closer to 20 minutes later when he came back to Villa 25. And when he arrived, something immediately felt off. There was no response when he knocked. The lights inside were off. The villa was silent. At that point, the situation had already shifted from routine to concerning. Acting quickly, the attendant used an emergency key to enter the room. What he found inside shocked him completely. Ashlee was in a critical condition. According to reports, she was still responsive but clearly in distress. The urgency of that moment cannot be overstated. The attendant immediately raised the alarm, and staff rushed to respond. Emergency measures were taken, and Ashlee was transported to a nearby hospital. From there, she was transferred again for more specialized care. Despite those efforts, she passed away the following day at around 3 p.m. And that's the moment where everything changes, from a tense situation to a full investigation. Now, this is where people start asking difficult questions. When you lay out the timeline, it feels incredibly tight. Joe had been moved to a different villa. There was a short window between the attendant leaving and returning, and within that time frame, everything unfolded. For some, that sequence feels almost too precise. It raises the question, does the timeline allow for any possibility of overlap, or does it seem structured in a way that rules certain things out entirely? It's important to be clear here. These are questions being asked, not conclusions, but they're being asked because the details don't feel simple. They feel layered and in some ways difficult to reconcile. Adding to the complexity, reports indicate that authorities have questioned around 10 individuals in connection with the case. This includes hotel staff and even a close contact of Joe's who was reportedly in Zanzibar at the time. That detail alone has raised eyebrows because it suggests a level of connection that goes beyond a typical visit. People are now looking at Joe's familiarity with the area in a different light. If he knew the environment, the people, and how things operated locally, it introduces a new layer to how the situation is being interpreted. Some are questioning whether that familiarity could have influenced events in ways that aren't immediately obvious. At the same time, investigators have stated that there were no signs of forced entry into Ashlee's villa. That detail narrows down certain possibilities, but it also deepens the mystery because it shifts the focus entirely to what may have happened inside. Meanwhile, Ashlee's family is still waiting for clarity. Reports suggest that the autopsy process has been completed, but the results have not been fully shared, leading to growing frustration. Her father even traveled to Washington, D.C. to involve U.S. officials and push for communication with authorities in Tanzania. Even with that effort, delays continue, and from the outside looking in, it feels like there are still missing pieces. That lack of transparency is one of the biggest reasons why speculation continues to grow. Then there's the relationship itself. According to a friend of Ashlee's, she had already been thinking about ending things before the trip. She reportedly felt uneasy and was unsure how Joe might react. That insight adds emotional context to everything else, because it suggests that the tension wasn't limited to the trip. It may have existed long before. When people began looking into Joe's past, they found details from previous relationships that some described as intense. While these accounts are not conclusions, they are contributing to how people are interpreting the present situation. Right or wrong, they're shaping the conversation. So now we're left with a situation that feels far from resolved, a timeline filled with critical moments, a relationship marked by tension, a series of events that don't fully connect, at least not yet. And one central question remains: what really happened inside that villa? Authorities are still working toward answers, and until those answers are officially confirmed, the uncertainty will continue. But one thing is clear: this is a story that people are watching closely, and every new detail has the potential to change everything. Now I want to hear from you. What stands out to you the most in this case? Do these details raise more questions in your mind? Drop your thoughts below, because this conversation is far from over.